Hello and welcome to Sparky Hobbies. My name is Ben, and this is going to be a rematch between the White Creature Aura deck and the Black Newbie Deck. Last time, the White deck lost after playing a very bomb card called Sigil the Empty Throne, but didn't have any blockers for flyers. Had it in his hand, did not play it, and got really wrapped up too much in the theme of the deck, the meta game, rather than just, you know, deal with the threats on the board, which is kind of funny because I didn't follow my own advice. I had just talked about that actually in my green-white petroglyphs deck build, deck tech thingy. So it's funny, I didn't take my own advice and I lost because of it. So yeah. So in order to play Magic, if you're a new player, you need a way to represent your life. In this case, I'm going to do 3 nickels and 5 pennies for 20 life. And I have a deck. If you don't have a deck, borrow one from a friend or a piece of internet teaching you. And before you start the game, you need to decide whether or not you're keeping your opening hand. Keeping your opening hand is usually dependent on whether or not you will be able to play the spells in your hand and whether or not you have first turn early turn plays. You don't want to be stuck there turn after turn doing nothing. So let's see what we got. Okay. I'm going to play as the White Creature Aura deck this time. This one is Opal Cataract. Costs 1, so it's a first turn play. Whenever an opponent says cast a creature spell, this turns into a 2/2 soldier creature. So that's pretty decent. Okay, I got a plane, so I can play that creature. I got another white mana generator land card, but it's a special land. It's a way to recur creatures from the graveyard to the battlefield. It says at the beginning of your upkeep, if you control 7 or more planes, you may return target creature card from your graveyard to the battlefield. So, yeah, I'll want to keep that. Kor Spiritdancer. This is pretty cheap. It costs 2, and it's one of the key cards in the deck. It says it gets +2/+2 for every aura attached to it, and whenever I cast an aura spell, I may draw a card. So that'll be good. I got a planes. Good. Okay. Hopefully no more planes. A Cage of Hands. Okay, so I can lock down somebody else's creature, and target creature can't attack or block. And it's a creature aura, so I will draw a card off of Kor Spiritdancer. And what else did I get? Like another plane. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay, so 4 white land generators and a couple things I can play. Yeah, I am definitely going to keep this. Okay, so start the turn. You untap the board, but I don't have anything to untap. Go through your upkeep step. I will play a plains. I will tap it into it to use it, generate the 1 white mana I need to cast that previously mentioned enchantment that will turn into a 2/2 creature if my opponent plays a spell. So I will now go through my end step, pass a turn to my opponent. My opponent untaps, nothing to untap, nothing to upkeep, draws a card, plays a swamp. Doesn't have anything to play with 1 black mana, so he will not tap into his swamp, and he will pass the turn back to me. Okay, beginning of your turn, you untap. Upkeep, no cards upkeep. Draw. I will play a plains. Okay. Tap 2 to play the Kor Spiritdancer that we saw in my opening hand, the 0/2 that gets bigger for every aura attached to it, and play an aura spell, draw a card. And that's my main phase, and I go through my end step, pass turn. Okay, my opponent, nothing to untap. Upkeep, nothing to upkeep, draws card. Okay, plays a swamp. Taps for 2. He's tapping into 2 black mana, so he can cast anything for 2 black mana, which is exactly what he does. He plays a Slith Bloodletter. We saw this last game. It's a 1/1 right now, but whenever Slith Bloodletter deals combat damage to a player, put a +1/+1 counter on it, so it'll get bigger if he attacks me, and he may pay 1 black and 1 colorless to regenerate it. So it is a pretty good creature if it gets a counters. Okay. And he played a creature spell, which means that my enchantment that I played on the first turn is now a creature. But he has nothing else to do. He goes through his end step, passes turn back to me. I untap my planes. I have a 2/2 and a 0/2. I could attack, but I'm getting ahead of myself. Untap, upkeep, draw. I think what I'm going to do instead actually is, because I get to draw a card from playing an aura spell, and because we know that Slith Bloodletter can be a real pain in the butt, I'm going to play a plains. I'm going to tap 1 and 2, so I generated 1 white mana and 2 of any other color. In this case it was white mana, so white mana, 3 white mana. This card costs 1 white mana and 2 of any other color, and it's the one that we saw in the opening hand, Cage of Hands. Target creature can't attack or block, and I may return it back into my hand. So we're going to see a little bit of shenanigans, hopefully, from the white deck this game. I enchant my Slith Bloodletter. Whenever I cast an aura spell, I get to draw a card. And since it cannot block when I enter my combat phase, and I say that I'm attacking, and I declare attackers, my 2/2 will not be blocked by Slith Bloodletter, and I will do 2 damage to my opponent. Second main, nothing, and end step, pass the turn back to my opponent. My opponent untaps his swamps. No upkeep, draws a card. Ooh, okay. He did not have a land drop. He'll tap 2 black mana and play a 2/2 creature for 2. That says target player dealt damage by Wicked Akuba this turn loses 1 life. So if it attacks and isn't blocked, it can pump up extra. You can pay any amount of black mana to reuse that ability over and over again because it doesn't require tapping. It doesn't say that he has to tap to use it. And it also, if for some reason, if it was able to do damage without being in combat, it would still have that ability. So Wicked Akuba comes into play. It would normally be able to attack, but it is summoning sick. Creatures cannot attack the first turn they come in. He passes a turn to me. That's all he's got for right now. I will untap. Oop. Upkeep, no upkeep. Draw a card. Okay. I'm going to play one of my Emir of the Sky Ruins. That was the one that if I have 7 more planes, I can recur one of my creatures from my graveyard to the battlefield. The Wicked Akuba. I'm not really worried about the Wicked Akuba per se. I'm going to go ahead and tap 1 white mana. I'm going to play another one of these guys. The ones that become a 2/2 soldier token if my creature plays my opponent plays a creature spell. I'm going to go ahead and leave the 2/2 blocker for the Wicked Akuba, and just in case he attacks. And I don't really want to attack with my 0/2 because it'll just die. I don't want to attack with a 2/2 and then have the Wicked Akuba attack me later and just pump up equal to the number of swamps he has and the number of black mana he has. So I don't really want to attack, and I will pass the turn. Oddly enough, everything I else have in my hand is land, so I got a little bit mana flooded. Meanwhile, my opponent is mana screwed. He will untap, no upkeep, draw a card. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Does he wish to attack with the Wicked Akuba? Not if I'm just going to lose it to an Opal Cataract. He'll go ahead and pass the turn. He got mana screwed. And that is going to be bad, because that can always cost you the game if you don't have mana to cast your spells. Since I was playing my opponent, just so you know, he opened with two black mana and 3 spells he could cast. 2 spells that he could cast with that. So, okay, so I untap. Upkeep. No upkeep. Draw a card. I will, in my main phase, I'll cast a Plains. This is not a creature yet. He hasn't played a creature spell. I'm actually going to pay 2 to use Cage as a Hand's effect. Cage Hand says I can pay 1 white mana and 1 of any color to return to my hand. I'm then going to pay 3 and cast it again, targeting his Slith Bloodletter again. Sure, why not? Slith Bloodletter, don't really want the Regenerator. That way, whenever I cast a spell for the Kor Spiritdancer, I'll draw a card. So I basically just paid 5 to draw a card, which is fine. I'm okay with it. I only have this 2/2 again. Combat situation, board situation is looking similar. I'm going to go ahead and pass the turn back to my opponent. So I go through my end step, pass turn back to my opponent. My opponent doesn't have anything to untap, doesn't have anything upkeep, draws a card, prays for a swamp, does not get it. Yeah. He will discard a creature spell that costs 5 that he will probably never get to play. Yeah, and he's very, very upset. That's disappointing. Okay, he'll pass a turn back to me. Kind of an unexciting game if your opponent can't do anything. That is unfortunate. Draw a card. Alright. Play a Plains. I'm going to cast Daily Regimen on my Kor Spiritdancer. It is a creature aura, so I'll draw a card. Once it resolves, my guy will get bigger by 2/2. And I'm going to go ahead and have my opponent scoop at this point, because the opponent doesn't have any removal in his hand. Well, he does, but it's not good enough right now for this game. So my opponent is scooping because he doesn't have any swamps, and he has a Severed Legend, 2/2 feared for 2. He's a Primeval Chandler, that's one he discarded rarely, but he has another in his hand, 3/3 for 5. Clockwork Vorak, that is a little bit kind of confusing. I'll go into that if I ever cast it. Creatures, oops. A Volshock Battle Gear, which is an equipment that gave +3/+3. We saw it last game. Yep, we saw that one last game. He had a Consume Spirit in hand and an Extraplanar Lens. So possibly would have got there had he got one more swamp. But it's a good thing he scooped because the swamps were 3 down. So he wasn't able to do anything. So game over. It happens. Everybody gets mana screwed. It happens to the best of us. So hopefully we'll get to see some action in the third game.